Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. I stopped in Chase County, Kansas on my way up to Baldwin City, Kansas. I stopped at a service center on the turnpike and went inside to get me some refreshments. And as you can see, there's lots of planes out here in Kansas. And it is that time of the year where the farmers are burning off the old so the new can grow. Here in the next few weeks or so, all that field will just be really lush green. Really looks beautiful when you're out here. Kansas has some awesome land. I'm gonna put my camera now in my holder so I can take off. I just kind of wanted to give you a little shot of that. Let's go ahead and start up my truck. The dinging you hear is basically you got to wait for those dings to stop before you crank over your truck. If you try to crank too early, it will not start. So you have to basically go through kind of a self-check. Put her in gear and disengage my parking brake, and we are off. Kind of giving you a view of me pulling out of the truck stop with these, with these 53-foot long trailers. You gotta definitely swing wide. And even if I don't need to, like in that situation, I was next to an open parking spot, so I really didn't need to swing very wide, but I do that anyway because I want to be sure that I swing wide when I need to, so I just do it every single time now. Well, this might be interesting. I got a couple of semis running next to each other, and I need to get over. Alright, they let me in. I was looking back in my rearview mirror and saw those guys, and one was trying to pass the other. So I'm going to slow down and let the passing semi over. That way he can pass the person that he was wanting to pass. He's looked like a semi that does not have a governor on it, so he doesn't have to drive the 63 or 62 miles an hour that a lot of these trucks are governed at. He can actually go the speed limit should he choose. So I stayed in Oklahoma City last night, and if any of y'all are from around Oklahoma City or go through there at all, I highly recommend stopping at Whiskey Chicks down in Bricktown. Went there for dinner last night and the night before. It's a bar and grill, and they really have delicious food, and the atmosphere was fantastic. Night before last, they had some guy playing his acoustic guitar, playing music and singing. And tonight, or last night, I guess, they had karaoke. I'm not a real I'm not a person that likes to get up in front of a lot of people, so I did not partake in the karaoke. Just not my thing. But I do like music. Music is actually a pretty important part of my life. I get paid to drive a truck cross country and listen to music. And my music collection is very eclectic to say the least. I have everything on my playlist from I don't know, a metal band called Disturbed to Johnny Cash. I have some old school hip hop, old school rap. I'm talking like breakdancing rap from like 1984. It's called Jam On It. But anyway, that's definitely a real good part of trucking. If you like music, I get paid to settle in and drive hundreds of miles listening to my music. So the case I want to talk about today, though, it was really just a very interesting case. It starts out with a teenage boy who was home alone. I think he was about 15, 16 years old. His dad was at the casino, I believe, and somebody committed a home invasion. I believe there was some suspicion that his dad maybe supplemented his income by dealing in some dealing drugs. I was trying to think of something creative to say, but yeah, it is what it is. He was I believe that he was a drug dealing suspect, and that was the reason for the home invasion. The home invasion was committed by, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 people. I just remember this main guy because it was the only guy I was able to identify. But it was committed by 2 or 3 people, and basically they somehow broke in. I don't remember if they kicked the door, if they went through a window or whatever, but anyway, they woke up the teenage kid at gunpoint. One of them had an AR-15, which is commonly referred to as an assault rifle, and that's a whole other topic. AR-15 does not stand for assault rifle. A lot of people have that misconception, but anyway. So we woke him up with, I believe it was an AR-15. It might have been an AK-47, but in any case, it was a rifle, or what is commonly called an assault rifle. Anyway, so they woke him up, made him disarm the alarm because I think it had just started going off, and they made him punch in his keypad his code on the keypad to disable the alarm. Their intention was to hold him at gunpoint until his dad got home, because I don't know if they were banking on the dad being home or not, but once they realized that he was not home, they held him at gunpoint until he came home, because their intention was to rob him of his money and or drugs. And so anyway, the homeowner, the dad, he gets a notification from his alarm company that his alarm had gone off at his house. Well, he knew that it was bad. In fact, I think it was like a front door reading, which that is indicative of somebody forcing your door open. So he knew something had gone bad at his house. So he leaves the casino and hauls ass home. He comes flying up in his driveway and runs inside his house and starts fighting with the suspects that were in the house. He ends up taking control of one of the rifles, but in the process, the rifle went off, and I think he got shot, and it was a minor. Yes, he got shot. It was a minor injury. It was like to his buttock or something like that. Got shot in the butt. So it didn't do a whole lot of, damage. I just remember him going to the hospital and getting treated. But anyway, so this guy was cooperative in the investigation, and if you remember back, if you've seen my previous videos, I told you about people not being cooperative in their when they get shot sometimes. Well, he flat out told me that the only reason he's cooperating is because it involved his son. He was 100% honest with that, and I went from there. It just started the investigation. The son did not know who had done the home invasion, and neither did the dad. During the home invasion, though, during the time that the people were waiting, one of the suspects drank from a soda bottle or a soda can. I think it was a soda bottle, maybe. And that was left behind. Well, that's going to be awesome for DNA evidence. Anytime you put your lips on a cup or a can or anything, eating utensil, you're going to leave your DNA behind, and if you're in the DNA database, you're going to be identified. So part of the process is I need to process the crime scene, and I actually had a conversation with the dad about that because he wasn't going to let me in his house to process the crime scene. I told him that I can investigate without that evidence, but I let him know that I need to go in to collect some kind of evidence, and if he didn't want to let me in, I was going to respect his wishes, but it was very helpful if I had that evidence. And I also told him that from the description, I could probably limit my search to his son's bedroom and the living room area of the house, because that's pretty much where everything took place. He went ahead and agreed and told me I could search his house, and it just kind of goes into he probably had some things in there he didn't want me to find. Like I said, he was a suspected drug dealer, so he could have had money or drugs in there, or maybe he had something in his private life he didn't want me to find, because I could tell you on a side note, I've seen some of the most intimate sides of people's lives in my investigations, and I could understand why people wouldn't want me to see that kind of thing. But anyway, so we processed the crime scene, ended up collecting the rifle, the soda bottle, or like I said, it was some kind of bottle, some kind of drink canister. Just a soda bottle sticks out in my mind, so that's probably what it was. And also did a few other things. Well, during the investigation, it just kind of quickly went cold. There just was no information other than just a basic description of the suspects. There wasn't anything special about them. They didn't have, mohawks, or they didn't dress some outrageous way or anything like that. They just were just average, ordinary black guys. There just wasn't anything special about them. So, about a week into the investigation, the dad came forward and said that the word on the streets was that it was that one of the suspects was identified through his street name. I don't recall what the street name was, but I ended up identifying that person's street name. I took the street name and I was able to identify the actual person who went by that name on the streets. I then created a photo lineup. My intention was for the kid to look at the lineup. Probably not so much the dad, because there could have been a chance that once he learned the street name, the person's name, he realized he knew him. And also the dad's interaction was like super quick. I mean, he busted in the house and it just immediately started fighting, disarmed one of the suspects, and they all ran off. So it was just, it went down about that quick. So anyway, as part of my lineup process, what I do is I take my target subject, the subject of the lineup, and I will see what his height and weight, hair color, eye color, race, things like that, to put into this computer program that will help me in building a lineup. So if the suspect is a black male, 5 foot 10 inches tall, 200 pounds, and about 35 years of age, I would put that I want to build my lineup with black males who are 5'8" to 6 foot tall. I don't remember what weight I said, but there would be a range, a weight range. Like if the suspect weighed 200 pounds, I would enter that I wanted to look for suspects from 185 pounds to 215 pounds. And also an age range. If they said they were 35, or if the suspect is 35, then I would put in that I wanted to look at all the suspects with that height and weight and the age between 32 to 37 years old. So you kind of get the general idea of you just got to broaden your identifiers of the suspect. So what happens is the computer program goes in, and anybody that has been booked in the jail will get a booking photo. We're tied in with our local jail, and the computer program will spit out or will give me numerous options of booking photos for people. Sometimes it might be like 20. If it's a low number like 20, then I'll broaden my search to get more, because the idea is to have a bigger pool of people to choose from. But a lot of times I have 100 to 125 people to choose from. So then I go through and I find my suspect's picture, and I pull it out and put it over onto another screen, so I can have it as a visual aid. And then I start going through the other suspects, or not suspects, the other booking photos. And I will pick people out who have similar attributes as my target individual, such as hairstyle, facial hair, shape of their face, the tone of their skin, if they are darker skinned, or if they're lighter skinned, or if they have freckles, something like that. Hair color the same way. If I'm looking at a red-headed white guy, I'm not going to fill my lineup with blonde white guys. If I'm looking for a black guy that has a medium-sized afro, I'm going to try and find similar photographs. Or a girl with short hair, I'm not going to put a bunch of girls with long hair. You just can't do that. They got to be similar. So anyway, I start going through the photos, and I'm pulling them out, as I'm finding one that is a good enough photo to put in the lineup. And I start pulling them out, and I build my lineup of 6 photographs. I print it out. Back then, I printed out 6 individual photographs. I would make them big, and I would make sure that all my photographs were the same size. I'm not going to put a profile picture in with a frontal picture. So all the pictures will be basically the same, with similar attributes as my suspect. So all the time in photo lineups. I mean, not all the time, but pretty often, people will make a misidentification, or they won't make an identification at all because they just didn't get a good look at their suspect, or the person that they misidentified as the suspect has two similar attributes, and something just stuck out in their mind that was that person. So I show that lineup to this kid, and he's going through the pictures, and he gets to one, and he looks at it, and he tells me something of the sorts of, if it wasn't this guy, it's somebody that looks just like him. He ended up picking the wrong picture. And when I say the wrong picture, he picked a picture that was not the target of the investigation at that point. So I just kind of took it as he made a misidentification, and I was going to have to wait for the DNA evidence to get back from the soda bottle and the rifle. So several months later, I finally get my results back. The lab report came back, and it reads that the DNA belongs to this person, and this person should be considered a possible contributor of that DNA. So then what I would do is I would research that guy. And as soon as I punched his name, I realized he was the picture that the kid picked out of the photo lineup. Now, completely random picture, and I probably had it's nothing for me to have 100 to 125 photos to choose from to build my lineup. So this guy was quite possibly one of 125 photos that I pulled out to put in a 6-person lineup. Okay, can you imagine the odds of me putting this guy in the lineup? He wasn't a target of the investigation at that point. We had probably 2 court hearings just to talk about my lineup, and I had to explain that it was a complete fluke that this guy was in my lineup, that he was not the target of the investigation at the time, and I just assumed that the kid either made a misidentification, or the street name that we had before, that person who was identified, was not a suspect. I mean, it was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. So the DNA on the rifle and the drinking container came back as the DNA from him. So what do? We end up serving a search warrant to collect a known sample of his DNA, just to get a verification that DNA definitely belongs to that person, because basically they want to that's one way to make it 100%. And when they talk about DNA matches, it's crazy. Like, they can have numbers that I've never even heard of, like, the odds of 2 people having that same DNA is like 1 in 1 nanomillion or something crazy. And it's just astronomical. Like the number, there are less people on the planet than it is possible for that person to have the same DNA as somebody else. And DNA can be identified, like, the further you go, the more positive your identification gets, because I've had lower numbers, like 1 in several thousand, but I've also had higher numbers, like 1 in 1 nanomillion or octillion or something like that. It's astronomical. So anyway, so we had the hearings, and come to find out, and this all happened kind of during my investigation, but come to find out, my suspect in my case happened to be a witness / suspect in a murder case of a very young girl, I don't remember if I've told you this in the past, but sometimes you get those cases as a detective that just sticks with you for life. Well, this is my partner's case that sticks with him for life. He could probably tell you every single thing from memory that he did on that case, and probably be 99% accurate. It's just the way it is. There are some cases that just affect your life, and basically what happened in that case, it was a murder of a little girl, and my suspect's roommate or friend that he was staying with, I don't remember exactly what the living arrangements were, but basically he had kidnapped a little girl and brought her home. When he came walking in the door with the little girl, my suspect said, "I don't want to be a part of this," and walked out the door. And our DA's office wanted to charge him with aggravated child endangerment because basically he should have done something to stop his friend from doing what he was going to do, which ended up being, I believe, he sexually assaulted her, but then he killed her. So, in any case, my suspect got sent to prison, and I want to say he did get the aggravated and child endangerment charge, and which actually bolstered his criminal history, so that way he would get a stiffer prison sentence for the crime that he was found guilty of on my case. And if you guys hear my speed warning from my GPS, I have it set up to where if I'm going 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, that it warns me, so that way I can slow my butt down. Because coming off the interstate onto an entrance ramp, obviously the entrance ramp has a very much slower speed limit or the exit ramp has a very much slower speed limit than the interstate, so it will go off quite a bit. And right now it still thinks I'm in the 20 mile an hour zone in the turnpike, but I am not. I'm actually getting ready to get on another interstate, heading towards Baldwin City. But anyway, so that's my case. It was basically a trifecta. Like, I've never seen or heard anything like this, where a random guy gets put in my photo lineup, not a target of the investigation. All he is a filler photo. That is it. The kid looks at it and says, if it's not him, it's somebody that looks just like him. And then months later, the DNA comes back as being that guy. That was just, I would tell other detectives that story, and a lot of them were pretty amazed that something like that could happen. And like I said, we had, I think it was 2. It could have been more court hearings, because a lot of times in cases you'll have multiple court hearings for different motions. Obviously, the defense would want to try and gather information to try and have my lineup suppressed, and it didn't work. I basically, my work is above board. I don't play around with stupid stuff like, I'm not going to put people who do not have the same attributes in photo lineups. I will go as far as, if my suspect's wearing a bright colored shirt in their booking photo, I will try to find other people that are wearing a bright colored shirt, because if everybody else is wearing black, gray, blue, some of the darker colors, and I have my suspect wearing a pink or a neon green shirt, obviously I think that could be troublesome, because a person's attention is going to be brought to that, and they're going to question as to why I put only his picture as wearing neon green. And if that, I mean, there might be a time when that's all I have, and if that's it, then that's all I have. But I can also try to crop the shirts out, and because I've had to do stuff like that before. I don't necessarily remember having to crop out shirts, but I remember having to crop photos for one reason or another. Usually to make them, most often it was to make them the same size, because I also don't want, somebody's photo 6x6 and then my suspect's photo being 6x4. Because that's just one more tool that the defense can use to get my lineup suppressed. But anyway, so that's my true crime story for the day. Next week, not next week, but my next video, I think I might talk to you about a case where another home invasion. I've worked so many home invasions in my career, it's crazy. But another home invasion of a deaf guy. This guy was deaf. I think he was also had some developmental delays. He was also physically disabled, and he was a victim of a home invasion. Yeah, that's the one I'll tell you guys about. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share them. Do whatever, like I said, I'm doing this to try and get some of the things that I've done in my life, which, like I said, it's a lot. I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff, and if you think it's cool, I got a whole lot more. Until next time, see you later and have a good day.